G'day folks, so the DRZ 400 has just clocked over 16,000 Ks, so brought it in today for a bit of maintenance. Stuart's usual oil change, greasing, which we've previously done a video on, and today we are going to put a set of brake pads in it, which we've got, and also a new disc rotor. It's an upgrade on the OEM standard rotor, so we'll see how that goes along with the sintered pads. So we will hop straight into it and let's kick on. So we'll just quickly go through what the components are on the braking system. Lever, master cylinder, which is also your fluid reservoir, with a sight glass bubble there, brake line, disc, and slave cylinder. So how does the braking system work? I've popped the cap off the front reservoir. As you can see, the fluid in there. As you brake with the lever, a piston here transfers fluid through the brake line down to the other pistons on the slave cylinder. The amount that the master cylinder displaces up through the line is the same distance that the pistons push out on the slave caliper. So that is what creates the braking force. The more that the fluid's displaced, the more braking pressure is applied. Same principles apply on the back. Lever, reservoir here of the fluid, and the slave cylinder here. Okay, so the first step is remove the rear tyre. You don't actually need to remove the rear tyre or the front tyre to replace the pads. It does make life a little bit easier, and for the clarity of the video, and also that we're replacing the disc, I've removed it. As you can see here, the two pads that are going to be replaced. First step now is to get the piston, which you can see the screwdriver is sitting on, the silver shiny bit in there, to be retracted back to the original spot to give you room to fit the new pads in. Easiest way of doing that is simply with your flat blade screwdriver, opening up in the pads, and with a bit of pressure, move the piston back. That'll go all the way back, and as you can see, there's a lot more room there now. Very important step is now, when the pads are out, is not to pump the brake pedal, because what it can actually do is it will push the piston all the way out, and you'll have to reseal, rebuild your caliper, it'll drop all your fluid, and it will be a mess. So if you've got kids or other people around, what you can do is just run a bit of rope or tape it up to the header pipe there, and then that stops anyone pressing on it. Now we're ready to drop the pads out. There's one retaining bolt that runs across through. It's got a straight screwdriver cap here, so we'll undo that. Out of the way. With the cap removed, you can see up in there is a 5mm Allen key head in there. Now that is your retaining bolt. So just undo this, and we'll wind out on that thread. The plug we pulled out before is just there to protect the thread that the retaining bolt runs on. Slide that out. And there we have pads removed. Just a bit of a quick more inspection of the caliper itself. You can see in there the round disc is the piston. There's two metal wear pad guides, 1, 2, that sit there. Just make sure that they're in place, they're not worn out. and any other general damage. Also, the caliper sits on slides, so should be able to move freely back and forward. Right, got the new and the old pads on the bench. So the new ones are a Ferodo sintered pad. The old ones, as you can see, not much left on them, right down. So got about 7,500 out of those. What we need to do is the old pads have two covers on them. We need to swap those onto our new ones. So we'll just flick them off. So here's the covers here. They got a couple of small tabs on them. It's just a matter of flicking them off and out. Separates. Very important, these go back in. There's two, as you can see. First one is a heat plate. It's almost like fibrous material. Stops the heat transfer of the from the brakes going back into your slave cylinder. And also this one here, you can see the piston mark on it. That is just a wear one, so it holds it all together, holds your fibre one in, and there's something for the piston to run and press on. There's the pads, new pads with the old plates on them, ready to go for install. The retaining bolt, just a bit of prep work to do. Just like to give it a bit of a clean up on a wire buff, and then coat it with a copper coat on installation. It's a bit hard to see on the video, but there is a groove down the back where this part of the brake pad sits. So needing about 3 hands to do this. Into the groove. As we discussed before, just a bit of copper coat on the end where it is retained in the other side, and also the thread. Just a matter of sliding it home. There it is, that's in, not going to fall out, and it's just a matter of doing up this bolt nice and firm. Remember, don't have to go too mad, and we do need to get it out at a later date. So, just a nice firm nip. Replace the cover port screw there, and that is the brake pad on the rear done. Replacing the disc, easy enough, is the 6 5mm Allen screws holding it on. New disc, does go one way, just keep an eye out for that, and also have new bolts to fit into it. Quick point at this time, it's just a bit of wet and dry, tidy up the mount points. On installation, just a dab of a Loctite for the retaining bolts, and when installing, do it nice and evenly in a star shaped pattern. That way it'll pull the disc down nice around the mounting area. Alright, there's the finished product, ready for reinstallation. Just notice I've put witness marks on the bolt heads. That way, first few rides, and keep an eye on it, make sure they haven't moved. Okay, so that is the rear brake disc and pads replacement completed. I'm not going to film the front, it's just a bit harder to get in there and see, and I'm not going to remove the front wheel, I'm just going to do a pads change quickly on that one. So yeah, couple of quick points. Ferodo recommend a small break-in period, which is light but frequent braking leading up to harder braking to bed the pads and the disc in. So we'll make sure you observe that, which I'll be doing on the next ride. And if with this, as you're saying, it's not a big job to do, but if you're unsure, just get someone else to do it. I've seen a few different things, people putting in pads in backwards, so that's metal on metal. So you want to get it right. Pretty important part of your bike, but easy enough to do with a few tools and a bit of know-how. Another, just a quick point to watch out for on the front. The front caliper is 2 pistons acting, where we could see on the rear was just a single piston. So as you spread the pads apart on it, you just got to watch that the other one doesn't creep out on you. They will move independently. So it's another, just a point difference from the front to the rear. And lastly, one thing that I've sort of adopted and I use on both my my bike and my personal vehicles is I don't top brake fluid up throughout the period. I'll, as you notice, as they go down, what that means is that the pads are wearing, and once you start to see a low level, it's time to start thinking about checking your pads. As we've seen, about 7,500 k's you got out of that set of brake pads. Out of interest, I put a poll up on the West Oz Exploring Instagram page to see what people are getting out of them, and I asked the question, are people getting more than 10,000 k's out of a set of brake pads? And it was a split 50-50 over quite a few responses, so that's it's very interesting that people are getting that sort of mileage out of them. So while we're here, we'll have a quick look at what an old technology brake setup looks like. This is on the 1984 TS185 drum brake. So just a cable, it's just a steel rod that actuates on 2 pads in there that push against the drum. Old school technology, did the job until disc brakes came out.